there has been a movement to acknowledge that things have to be done to improve the field. I will reserve my judgment until maybe next year to see if that energy becomes action and actually sustainable action. But I think overall in my field, the emphasis has been a lot when we're talking about EDI has been on creating inclusive and diverse environments for women. But it has stopped there and hasn't looked at the intersectional aspect of it, like women of color, for example, which we know are in academia the lowest paid group when you compare white men, white women, men of color, and women of color. Incredibly underpaid. I think it's for every dollar a white man makes, a woman of color makes 67 cents. So super underpaid. What I, along with others, have been trying to do is to move that conversation to include other axes of representation, and to start looking at it as, you have to account for the person as a whole, beyond binary gender norms, but also as their race, ethnicity, and make sure that we tailor the activities and programming that we do to people and be culturally sensitive when we're doing that.
Right. Okay. No, that there is so much to be done. Sorry, I'm just like my wheels are turning every time I talk to somebody, because I think I've seen, especially now, there's so much change coming, and I feel like that we're all have this opportunity to kind of be agents of change within our own fields, which is amazing. And I've heard that you're spearheading so much in regards to DEI work or EDI work. So congrats to you. That's amazing. Yeah. So, well, and I guess I also wanted to kind of like shift a little bit when it comes to being a professional in your field, or as a professional in general. I guess just advice for like our students coming up. HBCUs, we're historically Black college and university. We have several BIPOC communities represented within the school as well, Latinx and everything, and LGBTQ, women, all the intersectionalities when it comes to a lot of the marginalized communities. What advice would you give in regards to like microaggressions within the workplace as you step into the professional setting, or just dealing with outright bias? I don't know if you can use examples, or just how would you kind of tackle those?
Yeah. So here's one of my own character flaws. Whenever I have personally faced microaggressions and outright biases in my field and at the workplace, I'm really bad at stepping up for myself. Okay. Like, if it happens to me, I just go into quiet mode and like I walk away from situations. It's like fine. It is, as I've learned and read more, I've learned that that's actually part of my cultural tax. And by that I mean it's when you are one of the few people who are representing Latinx and planetary science, there's all of these stereotypes that people have about you and your culture. One of them being you're angry, you're passionate, you're loud, right? And when you're faced in a situation, caliente. When you're faced in a situation where your brain goes, you're about to click all of those stereotypes, you're about to abide by their confirmation bias, and now that person's going to go, yes, I was right, everyone's like that. My brain just goes, okay, no, I can't let it out right now because I'm just going to confirm this to them, so I'm just going to walk away. So instead, what I personally try to do is I take that energy, that emotion, that anger that's boiling up, and I push it into, okay, if I'm not going to stand up for myself, let me stand up for others. I'm better at that. So that's where a lot of the work I've done for EDI programming, EDI initiatives comes from, because I'm saying, if I have faced this, I know others have faced worse. Let me make sure that it doesn't happen for them. Let me start working on programs that facilitate the field, that create a more inclusive environment, that we all are aware, okay, these things happen, let's stop them from happening. I can push that energy there, even if I can't push that energy in that moment to immediately say, no, don't do that to me.
Oh, perfect. No, that's amazing. And I from the work that you're doing, it feels like that you have that ability and that space to do it, I assume.
Yes, at
Yeah.
LPI, Lunar Planetary Institute, they're very open. We've had a really encouraging director who has been super, super like, just when I say, hey, what if we do this? She's like, okay, go. I just get pushed.
Oh, but that's amazing to have the support there.
Yes.
Now,
Yeah.
now, what if there is a situation where maybe the organization itself is not as progressive, or there's too much politics involved? Because I know for myself, when I was younger, I always found it. I had that same feeling you did, as far as like I didn't want to give people the confirmation of the stereotypes, but also I felt like I wasn't in a position where I could say something without repercussions.
Right.
How would you perhaps maybe give advice to someone in that situation when they want to try to stand up for themselves, but they don't feel like that's safe? Or is that even an
That is,
opportunity there?
um, that is such a tricky situation, and I feel the pain in that situation. Um, like when I grew up, my abuela, one of the things she told me to prepare me when I went to the workplace is, if you face a racist, don't go to HR. Because they're there to protect the company, they're not there to protect you. So my response when I was at the workplace is, what do I do then? What do I do? And although my abuela is always sage and her advice is always good advice, there's still there's it still comes from a place of growth. So although, yes, when you are faced in the situation, you have to assess it fully, because I think the biggest advice to give to people is, number one, you have to protect yourself when you're in that situation, to make sure that the consequences that might happen, doesn't get you fired if you need that job. Um, at the same time, you also have to reflect and say, if I'm in this position where I'm being harassed, where I don't feel safe, is this the job for me? So I try to balance those two. And as an example, when I get to organize the internship program at the LPI, and I get to work with students and give them advice to how to go to grad school and whatnot. One of the things I'll tell them is, go talk to the students before you go there, figure out what the climate is. It might be like the best school or whatever, but if you hear the climate is bad for you, it's better to be in a comfortable, safe place for 4 years for your degree than to be at the best school, but have all of that psychological pressure going on you that entire time. So although I don't have the best advice in this situation, I think it's because it's very unique to each instance and to each person. I think the only thing I can say is try to balance that out. Is this one a safe place for you that you feel that you should continue working there? Can you enact change? And before you do anything, if you still want to work there, would there be consequences against you for standing up for yourself?
Definitely. No, and that is amazing advice, because I wish I had someone like that to tell me these things too, because what I grew up was, my mom always told me whenever I left out the house was, don't ever give them another reason to hate you, because they already do.
Yeah.
And we all know who they are. But I grew up in the 90s, and I remember I was trying to work my way up in a position, and in Texas in the 90s, there was more blatant racism than there were microaggressions. So I kind of found it helpful to have outright racists, because I kind of knew how to maneuver around them. I don't know, but that was my personal experience. Right. But I had to keep my head down, because I wanted to be in a managerial position, because then the second I became someone that could hire people, everyone under me was brought up. Like my whole team was like African American, Latinos, Indian, Asian. So like the diversity was there. And I remember one time I went into the HR office, and I looked in the trash, and there were applications in there that had names that were ethnic. So I picked them up, and I looked through them. I hired most of the people from that trash bin because that was uncalled for.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but no, times are definitely, there's such a conversation open now in regards to EDI, being inclusive, opening up these conversations, and being having that space to say something, which is amazing. So,
Yes.
Sorry, I'm a chatty Texan, so I talk a lot. But as far as your field itself, do you what is your advice for any other advice that you might suggest for any Latinx individuals or anybody that wants to go into your field?
Yeah. So one of the advice I give to students wanting to go into the field is, I think a lot of people coming in are kind of afraid of emailing someone out of the blue for advice, or, hey, it would be great if you could be my mentor or my advisor or something like that. Don't be afraid of doing that. So although there are not many underrepresented racial minorities in planetary science, we form our own community. So when there are students coming up the ranks, we will reach out. They will reach out. We will be like, all right, that university, that person, don't go over there. That's a bad person. Come over here. We will set you up. We will make sure that you're treated well. You're at a conference, you're giving a talk. We're all going to be there. We're going to be plotting you. We're going to be ready. Someone's going to ask you a bad question. We will step up and push them to the side. We are our own community. So don't feel scared or stressed out about reaching out to any of us. If you don't hear back, scientists are incredibly, ridiculously busy, and sometimes like 25 million emails pop up in a little second. So your email might have gone missed. It's okay, like wait a week, you didn't get a response, email again, we will respond to you. We are a community, we're here to help.
That's amazing. No, and I've heard that quite a bit now. Mentorship is so important. So, and I'm sure you've had several mentors, I'm sure, growing through your career as well. So it's always important to kind of find that person that you kind of want to get advice from, right? And it's never too early to start, because you can do it at the undergrad level, just with a professor.
Oh, yeah.
or like any staff member that you trust, and that you because we're all here. We've all been through this, right? So we were all young 20, 21-year-olds thinking that we'll conquer the world and make immediate change. So
I was 21. When did that happen?
So he's 23 now, everyone. So
Yeah.
well,